Good morning and welcome to the Personal Tanya, day 14. We're in the middle of chapter 7 of the Tanya, and we're taking on game-changing inspirations from the daily Tanya in 5 minutes or less. Today's topic that the Alter Rebbe addresses is the power of transformation, how we're never ever stuck and we're able to take responsibility to chart the course of our actions and the consequences of our actions, even after they've happened. Take a look at this. I'd like to begin with the story of Daniel, the very famous story of Daniel inside of the lion's den. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den in the days of the Babylonian emperor, people were forced to bow down to idolatry, and Daniel refused. He was a monotheist. He believes in God. He was thrown into the lion's den, and the famous story goes that the lions lapped his legs, they licked his feet as if they were little puppies. The Alter Rebbe explains elsewhere in Tanya that the reason for this was that Daniel was a righteous person, and the animals, the lions, recognized the image of God with which man was created, and therefore a lion cannot attack a human being created in the image of God unless that human being has committed a sin, in which case he has caused his spiritual energy to descend. He's violated his image of God, and he's caused his spiritual energy to descend to the level of the animal. And that's when the animal will attack a human being. So the animal is able to detect the spirituality of a human being. And quick, interesting test: if you want to see what the person's integrity, ask your dog. See if your dog will bark at them or if your dog will welcome them. That could tell you potentially volumes about the energy that the animal senses about this particular person. In much the same way, when our soul engages in neutral experiences, things that are neither holy nor are they forbidden. But if we engage in garments, thought, speech, and action of things that are neutral experiences, like food, like marriage, like the cracking jokes, or just neutral experiences, but doing them for unholy reasons. In other words, you didn't engage with these neutral experiences for holy reasons. You did it for selfish reasons, like you ate the food for just because of your appetite, or you're cracking jokes because you're trying to kill time, or you're being with your spouse in an intimate way for selfish reasons instead of for loving reasons. Then what's happened is that you've actually lowered your energy into the level of the klippa, into the level of the klippas noga, which we've been talking about in the previous days, which is that superficial energy of God, which is lower, which is a descent. You're descending into sin, into something which is unholy. Remember, we learned that only that which is humble and transparent before God is holy. Anything which is not humble and transparent before God is unholy. So you've essentially experienced an unholiness by engaging in something neutral for reasons that are not holy. Nevertheless, Alter Rebbe says you can elevate these energies later by doing teshuvah, by simply repenting, by doing teshuvah, having a change of heart, regretting what you've done in the past and committing to do different in the future. That act of regret, that teshuvah and commitment for the future, is what turns the negative into the positive and allows you from now on to retroactively uplift the energy that you caused to descend by engaging in those experiences for unholy reasons. By the way, the Alter Rebbe does give us a note, and he says, still, even after the teshuvah, there's still a vestige of impurity which remains trapped in the physicality of your body, which is why there's a very mystical experience when we die. It's called chibut hakever. It's the beating of the grave. There's a pounding of the tomb. When a person dies, there's like an angel that hits the grave to purify the deceased of this energy. But more about that later in chapter 8 in Tanya. Now, then the Alter Rebbe introduces what happens if a person engaged in forbidden experiences. If you did something that was forbidden, like you ate food, that wasn't just neutral, it was treif. Or you engaged in a relationship that was actually forbidden. Now what happens is that energy is now trapped. It is trapped, and you cannot lift up that energy. You've basically taken your spirituality, your divinity in that experience, and you've put it into a place of impurity. You can't get it out. And that's the reason why it's called prohibited. The word prohibited in English means something you're not allowed to do. But in Hebrew, the word prohibited is asur, which means chained or tied up, which means it's restrained. You cannot lift it up. It's stuck. You cannot pick it up. When something is permissible, in English it means you're allowed to do it. But in Hebrew, the word permissible means mutar, which means released. So prohibited means chained. Permissible means released. So something which is permissible, you can pick it up through teshuvah. But something which is chained, that's prohibited, you can pick it up. You are essentially stuck with the implications and the consequences of your sin until Mashiach comes, when the evil will be removed from all of the world, and that's when your sin will be undone. The implications, the impact of your sin will be undone. However, the Alter Rebbe does tell us in today's Tanya that there is one way to even redeem the experiences that you did that were prohibited, that were chained in the power of impurity. And that is when you do not a regular teshuvah, but a teshuvah that's motivated by profound love. It's a teshuvah, a repentance, that's motivated by the sin itself. So when your downfall is the cause for your inspiration, when realizing how far you've fallen is what inspires you to lift yourself up, then the downfall actually becomes wholly retroactively. It's like a bow and arrow, where the pulling backwards, the regression is actually part and parcel of the progression. So when you use your negative experiences in order to propel you forward into your spiritual experiences, then your negative experiences, your sin, actually becomes a mitzvah. And that's a fascinating concept. To give an example of an addict. So an addict whose current sensitivity and current spirituality is not despite his addiction. It's actually because of his addiction. It's because he hit rock bottom. That's why he was forced to go to AA and to journey and to realize or begin the journey of his rediscovery or spiritual discovery. So then it turns out that as retroactively, his addiction is actually part of his spiritual journey, and thus the addiction is retroactively sanctified as part of his spiritual journey. And this is the reason why penitents are higher than righteous people, spiritually speaking. Because spiritual people that are righteous, people that are tzaddikim, they are what they are. But people that are bali tshuva, people that have repented, they have the extra passion that comes from the momentum of their aggression, because they've taken all their negative experiences and they turned that into positive experiences. Hence, their teshuvah is far more passionate. Their emotions for God are far more passionate than a person that's just is on an even keel. That's, in other words, when you've engaged in sin, in something which is actually prohibited, you can undo the sin. You're not stuck. You have a power to transform. You're not stuck as long as you're able to do this deep teshuvah, which is powered by love, where your sin itself is what motivates your return. But a teshuvah that's not powered by intense thirst and love does not transform that energy until Mashiach comes. And that's a wrap. Let's try to apply. You can do this.